Hello friends, how are we doing? Let's just change this overlay, shall we? There we go. Um, dun, dun, dun. I'm Chris Thrall. I'm a former Royal Marine. Dun, dun, dun. And when I'm not hosting the popular Bought the T-shirt podcast, I get asked to do a few reaction videos. And of course, probably the question on everyone's mind at the moment is what the hell is going on in Ukraine and why? Why has Russia invaded? And so I've spent the day just doing a bit of research, mainly for my own, well, sort of for my own background knowledge, really, but also for the channel. And I just thought I'd run through what I found, and also possibly shed a bit of perspective on the situation, perspective that you're clearly not going to you're not going to get from the mainstream media. I think there's a NATO speech going on as we talk. Let me just have a look.
Which Russia would pay a severe price for years to come. NATO allies and the European Union have already introduced significant sanctions.
So this is this Jens Stoltenberg? He's the head of NATO.
And many of our partners around the globe have joined us. We must stand ready to do more, even if it means we have to pay a price, because we are in this for the long haul. At the same time, the Russian people must know that Kremlin's war on Ukraine will not make Russia more secure. It will not make Russia more respected in the world. It will not lead to a better future for your children.
Okay, let's just stop that there. Dun, dun, dun. All the usual sort of rhetoric, and you can't help thinking, can you, that Russia doesn't really care what the rest of the world thinks. But just to add further perspective on it, it's obviously a media. The media are portraying this war, aren't they? The simple fact that not the word peace has not been mentioned at all, or at least not to my knowledge, and it's almost peace, love, prosperity has just been written out of this equation from the start. You literally haven't heard those words on the BBC, right? And so, to that end, it's almost a clue in itself that this is gameplay that's already been written. This is, I don't know if you want to call this part of the New World Order. That all these leaders, although we've always been brought up to believe that they're separate entities, separate factors, when in actual fact they probably all play on the same team, or they're all puppets for the same interests, can we say? And yeah, I guess what I'm getting to, folks, is we got to rise above this as human beings. We can't be buying into this nonsense. Taking sides and being a part of the division is kind of a limited hangout, can we say, for the low intelligent, or the emotionally involved, or the ego players. I think you'd agree there's only one way forward in life, and it's to win the spiritual battle and you can't win the spiritual battle if you're either waging war on somebody or you wish ill of anybody. So there's a big clue there, isn't there, that a peace solution just hasn't even hasn't been discussed, or certainly not to my knowledge. What else have I got? I've made some notes here, so excuse me just looking across. Dun dun dun. So yeah, there's reports of attacks going on around the country. Is it Vinnytsia? Is where the Ukraine have their air force. Although, from what I can gather, their air force is remnants of the Soviet Union air force, and it's not really up to scratch. I think was it no more than 200 aircraft. But the long, tall, and short of it is we don't know what's going on, do we? The mainstream media don't know what's going on. They'll have their reporters there, and they'll all be staying in some 4 or 5 star hotel, and they'll be trying to fill in the blanks because obviously no news doesn't sell. So very often when they do this, they're either making up stuff or they're just jumping on any bandwagon that comes to light. So a car backfires in Kiev, gets reported as, you know, Putin's just dropped something on them. In addition, Russia itself are masters at espionage, aren't they? Masters of controlling the narrative or controlling information. Wasn't Putin was former KGB officer, so they're not stupid either. And then on top of that, you've got every man and his dog has got something in this fight, whether it's from the perspective of the European army, whether it's to do with finances. There is talk that Putin has completely kicked the Rothschilds out of Russia. It's not an area I've had time to look into, so if anyone knows more about that, please leave a comment below the video. Oil companies, obviously that's a big player in this, that's not really got much of a mention. Then of course we got the arms companies, who stand to gain massively by any conflict, and that's bizarre if you think about it. It must be bizarre being in a job where your sole aim is to create weapons that kill people or maim people or render ground useless for years to come in the case of landmines, or blow little kids' legs off when they're playing with their mates and they pick up some aging ordnance. Very strange position to be in. That's your actual job. Your job is selling this evil equipment. It's beggars belief, really, that how someone's mindset can be so almost sociopathic on the subject. Hello to everyone in the chat, by the way. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to drop something in the chat if you can fill in any of the blanks here, folks, because there's quite a few of them. Hey. So who knows who's behind the explosions going off where, unless you're actually there, unless you've physically seen them, or you trust the source that has. We're never exactly going to know. So why would Putin do what he's done? Why would Russia make a move on Ukraine? I've just put a few points down here. So it's in the south of the country are warm water ports. So Russia obviously has a lot of ports up north. But the southern ports obviously give access to the Mediterranean and Suez Canal, etc., etc. So quite strategically important, you can say. Mariupol is a port that's actually in, is it the Donbass region? Let's get a map up here. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, you've got the Donbass region to the east of Ukraine, and this is where you're hearing about Russian separatists. So it's a little bit, from what I understand, a little bit like the situation when Russia annexed Crimea. Is the way it was explained to me is the majority of people in Crimea didn't really mind. They kind of aligned with Russia anyway. So you've got this sort of situation there in Donbass, these eastern regions, Donetsk and Luhansk. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But in that area, you've got Mariupol, which is a port. And there's also been reports of explosions in Odessa. Odessa is another port with strategic significance, especially if you think about the amount of oil and natural resources which flows around this part of the world. So that could be one reason why Putin wants to go in there, and in amongst all this noise, he wants to secure these eastern regions. So basically annex them as part of Russia. And by doing so, he'll do that before Ukraine become a part of Europe, or become a part of the European Union, and also before they become a part of NATO. Because when they become a part of NATO, they can then call, is it Article 5? So that's where any country that's within NATO gets attacked by another, it can call on every country in NATO to come to its support. So Ukraine's obviously not a member of NATO yet, so not in a position to call Article 5. And so it makes sense, again, from a strategic point of view, that Putin gets in there and annexes this region. Again, folks, if you've got a different view on it, please put it in the comments below the video. What else have we got going on here? And then, of course, I mean, Ukraine's of it, again, of strategic importance to Russia, for the simple fact it's the buffer between Europe and Russia itself, and it's quite easy to penetrate this area. I'm told it's level ground, so not difficult for tanks to move across. And if there ever was a World War III, I think we'd see Ukraine becoming even more significant for that reason. So again, Putin looking to bolster his defenses, it makes sense he's going to have an interest in this region, doesn't it? Then we got other, additional factors. What we've got, if we look at the NATO map, bear with us. Hang on, there we go. So the colours there in blue are NATO member states, and yeah, Russia's pretty much surrounded there with Ukraine bang slap in the middle, and yeah, you could you could just imagine tanks charging across Ukraine if there ever was this world war. But then, of course, there's just been a NATO exercise. Am I right in thinking that? Exercise Saber Strike, which has involved NATO members Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Norway. So if there ever was saber rattling, excuse the pun, then it's an exercise like this is going to, I mean, this is right on Putin's doorstep, isn't it? It's almost as if this exercise was designed to rub his face in it. So yeah, so that's kind of my take on it, folks. And the overall, my overall take would be, oh, get me back. My overall take would be is we're not exactly going to know what's going on. Who knows what the bigger picture here is? Could it be World War III? Perhaps, but what we've got to remember is that if that was the case, Russia would align with China, would they not? And if you think what China's trying to initiate now, or what's underway, is the Belt and Road project. So this super highway of infrastructure leading from China through, funny enough, or through or just past Ukraine, the seaway going up through the Suez Canal and bypassing Israel before it hits Europe. Would China want to see all that screwed up? I'm guessing a world war would really put a spanner in the works. And the other factor we got to remember is, of course, the European army. We've seen that the European army is well underway. I remember when I first started talking about this on my channel, what was it? About 2.5 years ago now. Everyone thought it was a joke. There's no way there'd be a European army. You know, Britain will retain sovereignty over its forces, etc., etc. And yet, what we've seen is every excuse for European countries to exercise together has been seized, and along with that, so many photo opportunities of Britain's top brass posing beneath the EU flag. So clearly a European army is on the cards, is in the cards. I would say clearly it's massively tied into the new Belt and Road infrastructure, and overcoming threats possibly that would come up from insurgents from Africa that could have an effect on the Belt and Road. So could this be an exercise in consolidating Europe's troops, is what I'm trying to say? Is this to highlight the need for a European army, which will be under the guise of fighting against Russia? But as we all know, in reality, it's to create this Orwellian, or these Orwellian super states where we're all constantly played off against each other in a state of war, all controlled by people behind closed doors, can we say, or people that sit around a certain table of 300, or is it 500, or is it council of 50? Again, are we ever going to know? Pam saying, keep your eyes on China. Show memo, Putin is doing a good job to help get the snakes out of Ukraine. It is easy rather than Ukraine handing out weapons, surrender and negotiate. We've got Mike McCarthy's coming in here. Global ethno-nationalism is a key to world peace. That would be in response to this divide and control agenda that we're being subjected to, this mass, unrestrained and uncontrolled immigration that's dissolving the identities of countries in Europe and individual identities, as has the European Union. Again, arguably, or it could be argued, part of the agenda. Is that Shiley or Shiley is saying, if we don't get potash from Russia, we can't grow food. That's the first I've heard of that, but I'm not doubting you, Shirley. William Knowles saying, tune into Graham Phillips. I'll keep my ears open for him. I'm not familiar with that name. Dun, dun, dun. Kazura, English subtitles, a good channel. That's from William. Thank you, William. What is done is Hollywood actors making videos. Have they started making their anti-Russian videos? Have they? That's what you need, isn't it? A good Hollywood celebrity. Get Brad Pitt on the job. That'll put the worlds to rights. Anne's coming in here. Belt and Road, Pan-Eurasia, including Africa. Smart cities. It's talking about the grid. I'm not going to say those two letters, but we or the number and the letter. Communist surveillance, mass communist surveillance system. Add to that the Great Reset and Agenda 2030 for a sustainable development, and we're all controlled down, aren't we? Mike's pointing in the direction of the Sabbatean Frankists, Sabbatean Frankist Bolsheviks. So we've got the Sabbatean Frankists. I'll probably either these guys or the Khazarian Mafia are what people probably think of as, in loose terms, as the Illuminati. These Middle Eastern cults that are alleged to have come down through the years, which certainly makes sense, that are behind global events, can we say, such as the big shocking events that shock us all. We've seen in European capitals as well as US capitals. Klaus Schwab, there's a name that just comes up again and again, and his global leadership school that's grooming leaders for the future, or leaders for the Great Reset or the New World Order. Greg's mentioning the Nord Stream pipeline, which was leading through Ukraine. Was it through? I wasn't sure if it's through the Black Sea, Greg, but wasn't it Nord Stream 2 that was going to supply Germany, and that was their sticking point, and now they've just drew themselves out of it, out of that deal. Did I just see a comment saying vegan poo is the best? Which is quite interesting, because when you adopt a plant-based lifestyle, certainly parts of your body stop stinking. It's definitely under your armpits. You don't have to buy deodorant anymore. Oh, we've got Dinch is bringing North Korea into it. This could all be kicking off. Yes, that was Clarice making the comment about vegan discharges. Dun dun dun. Show Memo's talking about Biden. Just literally can't trust a word that comes out of anyone's mouth, can you? The notion that Biden could be in charge of a picnic is kind of laughable. Yeah. Sorry, I just lost it there. We had tinfoil hats saying the deep state has been exposed, but they kind of have always been exposed to those in the know, have they not? Robert saying another pantomime. Viral pantos finished on the Russian panto. Lies for years, and they think we'll believe this horse shit. Who are the real useless eaters? Yes, good point, Robert. Right, folks, that's me. I've got fish and chips on the table, apparently, so I just wanted to give you my take on it and what I came up with, just having a brief cursory look over it all. It's funny how out the loop you get when you don't watch mainstream media. You don't have all this programming for years and years that have no doubt led up to this. I mean, what have the BBC been saying? Dun, dun, dun. Bit of scaremongering, is it? Russian forces attack from three sides. Footage from Ukraine shows explosions, a missile strike, and a helicopter under fire. This literally could be anything, though, couldn't it, from what we've seen so far? That's not looking good. Go back to Jens Stoltenberg. What's he saying now?
In response to Russia's massive military build-up over the past months, we have already strengthened our deterrence and defense. Yesterday, NATO allies activated our defense plans. And as a result, we are deploying elements of the NATO response force on land, at sea and in the air, to further strengthen our posture and to respond quickly to any contingency. The United States, Canada and European allies have deployed thousands of more troops to the eastern part of the alliance. We have over 100 jets at high alert, operating in over 30 different locations.
Yeah, all the usual rhetoric, not one mention of a peaceful solution, hey? Fucking children, eh? And anyone buying into this nonsense is part of the problem, if you ask me. We had some, yeah, I mean, it'd be an interesting time, wouldn't it, to be in the armed forces now, British armed forces, what with NATO seemingly getting involved here. Yeah, Dominic says he's joining the Royal Marines Commandos in March. Wish me luck. I wish you all the best. Yes, keep your head down, mate. Stoltenberg's not getting much support here in the chat. You don't get to any of these positions unless you're manipulated, huh? Michael's saying, Chris for Prime Minister. You've got it, brother. Sea of Cronus, glad I'm too old and wise. Yes, of course. Imagine if you couldn't join the forces until you're 50. Wouldn't be having many takers, and certainly wouldn't be many wars. Right, that's it, folks. I'm out of here. Massive love to you all. Don't buy into this gameplay. We got to set an example for the kids. This is all nonsense, whatever it is. And yeah, we need to preach peace, not war. Because at the end of the day, if you and I went to Ukraine tomorrow, we're going to meet wonderful, lovely people. In fact, I have met wonderful people from Ukraine, very kind and loving people. And I've met wonderful people in Russia. And do any of us want to fight each other? No, absolutely not. So what does that tell you? That tells you this is power play. And we've got to be stronger than this, and we've got to keep the vibration high. Isn't it interesting how this comes just as the other narrative, the medical one, is kind of fallen on its ass, and everyone's trying to distance themselves from it now. With that in mind, I've got some good news which I'll release in a separate video, but just to say, I heard some of the most wonderful news yesterday. Some of you are probably guessing what it is, but it's with respect to the, can we say, the procedure. And that's it. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, Greg, I'm hearing you, mate. That's it. Take care of yourself, folks. See you soon. If you can like and subscribe and give us a share, I'd really appreciate it.